All right, welcome to our Saturday feature matches here. We're trying out for a couple weeks here. Week two, Cons of Tarkir League, and I got Duncan here with me for the next 2 weeks. Welcome to the feature match commentary booth.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we got Chris R. Sinkwater here. It's he's a longtime leaguer, but only a second feature match up against John R. So why don't you tell us what's going on in John's hand over there?
He's got two colors of mana and the same two colors of spells here. We got Island Forest, um, Jeskai Windscout, Glacial Stalker, and a Crippling Chill and Savage Punch for some interaction.
Huh?
I haven't seen what other colors he's playing yet because it's all just green and blue so far. Oop, just drew a debilitating injury.
Okay.
So hopefully get some black mana for that later on.
Yeah, so maybe some saltai here. I mean, he does have four losses, so the more losses you get, the more compact your deck can be as far as your splashes and things like that. Chris over here, he's obviously a bit of a slow start with not casting anything just yet, but in hand he has some pretty powerful spells. He has a Mardu Warshrieker, which is the 4 mana 3/3 that gives you mana if you attacked. Then he has a couple rares here: Crackling Doom, which is castable, and the Necropolis Fiend, which is the big 9-drop demon with Delve. And he has a Mountain and a Plane. So his mana is set up. He can cast the spells in his hand. I mean, eventually he'll be able to cast the Necropolis Fiend. And he's got a Bitter Revelation for turn, which is actually going to flip his graveyard quite nicely for that Delve spell. That's one of the cards you really want to use to fill your graveyard.
It's a nice one if you can take the time to play it. Um, yeah, John over here has he's drawn a meandering tower shell as well, but if nothing changes, I imagine the Dirtle Turtle might go down to the crackling doom before too long.
Yeah, that is a very crackable shell over there.
Yeah.
So we got Disowned Ancestor, a nice little follow up. He also took the other card he took with the Bitter Revelation is a pretty good rare there. High Sentinels of Arishan, the bird that can
Ooh.
give counters. So I know you're a longtime Magic player. Were you playing during the days of Khadza Tarkir, or were you on a break, or
It
what's your
was
memory of the set?
Yeah, this was I think this may have been the first one that I really played after coming back from my break.
Oh, nice.
So this was one that I did play a reasonable amount in real life, but I was still very surprised when I started playing this on Arena because I'd forgotten kind of where the card quality was. Like
It's not
I've gotten
uncommon.
used to there being a certain floor on card quality, especially for the
Yeah.
commons, and in this set that it's much below what I was expecting.
Yeah, and I think I mean, that's why it also didn't resonate with some like newer players who just started playing in the last like 5 6 years. I know a lot of the players that fit that description sort of drafted the set a couple times. Like, what? This is so slow. The cards are so bad, and that's it's well known that cards just have gotten so much better these days. So our expectations for commons are pretty high. So coming into the set as a for the first time, I could see it not not hitting home maybe as much. But I've talked about it a bit. This was like during my formative time as a Magic player. I'd been playing for less than a year, and this just hooked me until now. So, John, did he draw more black cards in the meantime, or is he still have?
No, still just the
Okay.
debilitating injury. But the thing is, he's still sitting on the interaction he had to start: crippling chill and savage punch. And luckily for Chris, he decided to crackling doom instead of trying, to run out the high sentinels or whatever, because Savage Punch isn't nearly as good with Jeskai Windscout as it would have been with Meandering Tower Shell.
Yeah, that turtle, despite being a little slow on the attacks, can definitely pack a punch when it comes to a fight spell.
Yeah,
Um,
John's currently considering if he should Crippling Chill, I think, just to draw a card and try and get him into some action,
yeah,
but
I mean
decided not to in the
maybe
end.
maybe on his turn just for the extra bonus point of power on the Wind Scout. So he's got the War Shrieker here. He's going to be able to cast his High Sentinels or his Abzan Battle Priest, which is also a pretty nice one. It gives all creatures with counters lifelink, and the High Sentinels can throw around counters at will, pretty much. So setting up a pretty good board after a slower start. So it looks like he's some type of a Mardu deck. He does have 3 lands that produce green, so maybe there's some extra color in there. We haven't seen it yet, but we see his board here, full Mardu across the board. And yeah, this is where you want to be in like a bit of a slower deck. You have time in this format frequently. The aggro decks are just the card quality of the aggro decks is usually pretty low, so it's like they have to be super low to the ground, and that's why it didn't all frequently not work out in this form, particularly sealed. So we're seeing Chris probably doing pretty much exactly what his game plan was. He was envisioning here.
I mean, this is one of those. This was one of the draws for Chris that could have just gone down hard, though, if his opponent had gone, turn 2 Valley Dasher, turn 3 Morph, and he would have been sitting there going, yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that for a while.
Yeah, he would have had to
But
Cracking Doom a 2/2, and just. I mean, he would have been able to play the Mardu Warshrieker just as a 4-mana 3/3 with no text, which sometimes is just fine.
yeah,
And
yeah, it is amazing the number of times that I've looked at an opponent's 2/3 and gone, how? I don't know if I can deal with that.
especially a 3-mana 2/3. Oh my. It's like
Yeah.
how is 3-mana 2/3 far above the curve? I mean, that's gone to Tarkir, but I'm imagining this High Sentinels may get punched very savagely.
Uh,
So of note, he does have mana. Chris does to put a counter on a creature. If he opts to put it on the High Sentinels, it will still die to the Glacial Stalker with the Savage Punch. This will be a 6/7. So um, this High Sentinel, which is a very scary card, looks like he does have the answer. And he's just going to put the counter here to gain a couple life and make a 2/6. He just says, well, he's not blocking, so let me get a point of life. Or 2 points.
yeah, John has now also drawn a Force Away, but certainly doesn't change the current math. The High Sentinels really needs to get removed.
Yeah, and once Chris tapped out, he feels a lot safer here. I mean, with 4 mana open and 1 card in hand, it can still go wrong. It's not as likely to with only 1 card in hand, but with no mana, he just feels a lot safer here. And he gets to get in for 3. But there is still this lingering problem of this Abzan Battle Priest, um, which can gain a lot of life for Chris here, and he does have the Demon coming down probably next turn.
Graveyard's been filled up a little bit. Plus, he's almost got enough mana to just hard cast it and save the graveyard for -X effects.
Yeah, that card always like confused me a little because like you delve away all your cards to cast it for cheap, but then you don't get the effect. So I always found that a bit weird. Not the most exciting draw here for Chris here for the turn. The Monastery Swift Spear, a card that always got more respect than it probably deserved in limited, just because of its credence, its track record in constructed is incredible. So I think people always think it's a little better than it is in limited, but. It's good if you have it on turn 1. I'll tell you that much.
I'm not particularly sold on it. I mean, 1/3s for early blocking of morphs and things I'm a fan of, but a 1/2 just if it doesn't match up well against a morph, I'm less sold on it.
Yeah, you need a constant stream of spells, but also spells that replace themselves. Because if you're just casting, an instant here or a sorcery there to give it a pump, and those cards are not replacing themselves, that Monastery Swift Spear is maybe attacking for 2 or 3 turns before it's completely irrelevant. So John's just opting to set back Chris here a little bit on the Disown Ancestor. Uh, you know, Force Away, like one of the best. Like this is like a format where bounce is incredible just because of Outlast and Morph. Like often you are trading your 2 mana card for like 8 mana's worth of a creature that got got morphed up, and you just send it back for 2 mana.
Yeah, and that's also kind of one of the interaction spells that does feel like it could exist in Magic today. Like that effect, you bounce something and you might get a loot out of it. That's something that is very much printable today, whereas a lot of the tricks feel a little more overcosted,
Yeah,
especially a lot of the creatures.
we saw in Lost Caverns of Ixalan pretty playable version of it at common. It was just a bounce spell, and you got a treasure if the creature was tapped.
Yeah.
More often, we're used to for 3 or 4 mana getting a card draw out of it. But the looting in the late game is often almost as good as a card draw.
Yeah. John glanced again at his crippling chill during end step and just wanted to see if he was going to play that, but he decided to draw, and I'm not sure it's paid off that much. He drew a Segu Archer, so he's got two morphs in hand at the moment: the Segu Archer and the Glacial Stalker.
Yeah, I was about to say he needs to crippling chill right now if he doesn't want Chris to be able to activate the demon. The
Yeah,
words were
so
about to come
he's
out of my mouth because as soon
yeah.
as Chris untaps, the demon can be activated at instant speed. So
Yeah, unfortunately, he's now drawn yet another expensive card, a second Meandering Tower Shell, actually. Um,
yeah, and it looks like Chris is
so
playing
he's
all of the colors
just
except islands.
yeah, yeah, where John still hasn't drawn a second color of mana, but the only non-blue green spell he had uh, was that black removal spell that he looted away with the Force Away.
Yeah, interesting that he attacked with the 4/5, allowing Chris to attack back for the life link here.
Yeah.
It's a little surprising. I think dealing 4 and then him gaining back 4.5 doesn't completely add up here for John potentially, but he's drawn Salt Road Patrol, which is a good ground blocker here for the 4/5, the 2/5 with Outlast. And then if the demon is still there and usable, he will be able to start mowing down the creatures. Um, yeah, if John doesn't attack with the 4/5, Chris can't attack with the 4/3, and then the Jeskai Wind Scout, there could just be like a pump spell that puts it over the edge here to win. You know,
Yeah.
most pump spells are gonna make it do 5 damage, which was his life total. And here comes the post combat Swift Spear.
Yeah. Given the speed at which this game seems to be closing out a little bit, I'm a little surprised at Outlast on the Disowned Ancestor, but the lifelink with the Abzan Battle Priest means that could pay out as early as next turn.
Yeah, so
Uh,
basically, John needs he needs something. I mean, I guess not even. I guess he would need something like Icy Blast or like some effect that gets rid of 2 creatures. I guess there is also the uncommon bounce 2 creatures that would do it as well.
yeah. Well, he's got what he drew this turn is Ice Feather Haven, the morph that
Okay.
can bounce something when it flips face up, and that isn't bad, but I don't know if it's enough because both the Battle Priest and the Necropolis Fiend are still problems. I imagine he's going to bounce the Necropolis Fiend just to slow down uh, his his Wind Scout becoming irrelevant and or dead, but I don't know for sure. I'm not sure how I'd play this from his position.
Yeah, it's gonna be a super super close couple of turns here. And the morphin play is what? It's the 2/5 you said.
The Morphin play, he actually decided to play his second Glacial Stalker.
Okay, the
So it's just a
4/5.
4/5 instead of the 2/5
Yeah,
reach.
little better than a 2/5 for the same mana cost to flip up.
Yeah.
All right, and here comes the I assume the Ice Feather.
That was indeed Ice Feather Haven.
So he can get in for 2 with the Jeskai Wind Scout. He would have to, again, to avoid the Necropolis Fiend being activated, he would have to flip it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. He's just, he needs like a turn off in order to try and set things up, and he's not getting it.
Yeah, let's see how he decides. I assume he's going to at least be attacking for 2. That doesn't look like he has other attacks that are really viable here. And Salt Road Patrol is no all star, but it was just like the right card to draw for that turn to just size up against the 4/5. Yeah, so we'll see how he plays it here. It is going to like I said, the game's ending in the next couple turns, and these are the decisions that will play a part in that. He's potentially rereading the Fiend here. Yeah, he's just going to go for the turn face up. Let's get that demon back to your hand so you can't activate it. Yeah, Chris has more or less a full graveyard here, so he can. He's also drawn another flyer for the turn, which is going to cause more problems here for John. He's on the High Spire Mantis, which is just the 4-mana 3/3 with trample, but it'll do the trick
That
here.
is, I imagine his graveyard isn't full enough that he wants to run both of those out this turn,
I
though.
don't think
I've
he
lost track
can.
of.
I think he has 4 or 5 cards in the graveyard, which is not enough here.
Yeah. Yeah, so he'd probably rather just run out Necropolis Fiend and uh, save the graveyard for -X next turn, assuming that John doesn't have yet another delay for it.
Yeah, so he's one mana off of doing both. Looks like he's gonna play the High Spire and then
Get a little more life link ready.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, so he does leave mana unspent there, which potentially could have been used to outlast, but he decided, let's play it safe here. Blue has bounce. Blue has, there is an uncommon and a rare that can, the uncommon bounce 2 and the rare tap everything that can really cause a problem. So here's another turtle. No islands in sight, so Chris probably isn't too concerned about that.
And John has just drawn his second black card of the game, Sultai Charm. So he can't currently cast it, but a swamp next turn would let him use the destroy monocolored creature to take out the Necropolis Fiend,
Yeah,
assuming that gets replayed, or the Abzan Battle Priest.
yeah, could be the battle priest or the demon. Chris is just drawing a plains here for turn, so that's of no use. He's going to attack here. He says, "I need to get him dead, and I'm at 9, so I'm not really in danger of dying to the 2 flyers, even if he does answer my fiend."
Hmm.
I do think I would say that I might want to play the fiend first, just
So
in case
John would
opponent
need
has
to
like a
High Spire
disdainful stroke.
Mantis.
Like I think I want to play the fiend before I attack, just in case he has that disdainful stroke, and then
Mhm.
you know, right? He's just paying full price here for the Necropolis fiend, as you do
Save
sometimes.
the whole graveyard. Oh, that was not a swamp. Debilitating injury number 2
Oh,
for John. So his only playable card in hand is a Segu Archer. This is John's window of opportunity is starting to close unless he can get something really good.
yeah, this demon is threatening to basically take over the game here. I mean, when you tap 9 mana and cast something, you're hoping it's going to take over the game. Not that, I mean, you could have cast it for cheaper. John
Why?
doesn't seem to have too many options at this time, really.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at John's pool. I mean, certainly this is the position where you would want an icy blast if you had one.
Yeah, we'll see his deck during the sideboarding at the very least. Here's a mountain off the top, but so I mean, Chris now has to decide how he wants to utilize the Necropolis Fiend. With the 2/5 reach, he can't he doesn't just have like attacks with his flyers. He does have to figure out what he wants to do, if he wants to attack or probably kill something. So he does have 4 cards in his graveyard, which means he can give something up to -4/-4.
Might be swing with the High Spire Mantis and see what happens then if he can't take the Segu Archer out naturally.
Looks like he's probably just gonna play it safe. He may just declare no attacks and
Oh
then
yeah,
just
if
take
he
out stuff little by little. Because even if he attacks with the High Spire Mantis, John could like triple block and still kill it. Because
yeah.
the demon taps to do the ability. Also, he only has 2 black to use it, so he's just decided I'm gonna outlast 2 things, and I'm gonna sit back with my demon activation and basically force John to find something before this demon wipes out. all the relevant creatures or threats. Forest,
Forest
not working.
unfortunately does not. Yeah, Forest unfortunately does not tap for black mana.
Not yet. No, they haven't invented a basic forest that taps for black just yet.
You should get working on that
I know, right?
right after purple mana.
Yeah. Or they could just put Urborg on Arena and then we solve the problem. Yeah, so
I,
not
I
too much
keep
to think
I
about
keep
for John here. I mean, Chris is probably
yeah.
thinking he has lands in hand, or could be cards of other color. This late in the game, you would assume your opponent's mana is good enough that they would have drawn that source.
Yeah,
So it looks like
but
he's going to go for the Aven here. And he can untap and he can kill the other flyer as well. Yeah, so I don't know if John has done this purposely, but by not flipping up his morph, he just retains priority, which can bluff that he has something in hand. Because once that morph is up, it'll just pass through everything because he has two uncastables in hand. So I'm not sure if that was
I
intentional, but at least is making Chris think that there are castables in hand right now.
yeah, I mean, I feel like this might be the first turn where he's really had that option, where he's had mana that he wasn't spending on anything else. So up until just recently, I think that it largely was just, I don't have other things to do. But
Yeah, so
now he's,
with this Hordling outburst here, we're getting into potentially attack all territory as early as next turn, especially with the Fiend being able to wipe out the Wind Scout.
yeah,
So he may be thinking it's time to send everything in there. Oh, he is going to flip
yeah,
it up here, so
yeah.
the illusion is gone. Yeah, even I think a
Ooh.
swamp is probably like even too late here, honestly.
Yeah, the window of opportunity might be done, and it was not a swamp; it was Sultai Charm number 2.
Oh
So
dear.
John's splash removal is not working here, and yeah, on to game 2.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how many sources he had, if that was just bad luck, or if his mana isn't exactly where he would want it to be. Yeah, we're seeing basically a straight up three color deck here from Chris. I see six of each basic and then a smattering of non basics. He is looking at the battlefield now. I didn't get to see what the green is for, but it looks like he has an Abzan guide in there as a morph. Probably is only a green card. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, John was running 6 land sources for black mana, 5 swamps and a jungle hollow, as well as a Sultai banner. So 7 sources. You'd hope you get it by that late in the game, certainly. Um,
Yeah,
but that
that's
was also
just
most of his black cards. I think he had 3 that we didn't see.
yeah,
Uh,
that's just how it goes sometimes. Limited mana base is famously poor. Chris, I think he took out a 3 mana 3/1 prowess creature. Didn't catch what he put in there, but not too much sideboarding going on. I think his deck more or less played out how he was planning. You know, just have a couple heavy hitter cards and make use of those, particularly the demon there.
So I'm trying to figure out if I was too busy counting black mana sources to see what was going on, or if John just sideboarded really fast. Because I've glanced up and now there's a couple of red cards in here as well as all the
Okay.
Sultai things, and I'm like, did he board that in real quick, or did I just was I just being oblivious? So yeah, so right now he's showing the Sultai. But he's also got an Arc Lightning and a Mardu Heart Piercer for some extra removal.
Okay, that could be just cards he's playing anyway and just didn't draw them, nor the red
Yeah.
sources. So, I mean, it looks like he's very, very based in blue green, and he was able to play a good portion of that game without his third color and like be in it, but did fall out of
Hmm.
it once Chris landed a really good card. Like he first he landed the High Sentinels, but John did have the removal for that. But then the Demon, he was able to lock it down for a bit. Bounce it, tap it, but eventually it did take over. And we see a Swift Spear on turn one here. Um, what's John got going on?
Well, he's got 3 colors of mana here: Forest,
Hmm.
Island, Swamp. And another forest that he drew. He's got a couple of morphs. We've got Ice Feather Aven, who I'm curious if it's going to come down face up this turn, and it looks like it is. He's also got a Pine Walker, the 5/5 that untaps when it flips up, and Savage Punch for removal, and Dragon Scale Boon as a trick.
All right, and Chris is laughing in the face of anybody who says 6 mountains is not enough to play a Hordling Outburst in your 3 color deck because he's able to cast it on time here. In hand, he has yet another mountain. He has a Rugged Highlands. He has a Mardu Hateblade, but no black mana to give it Death Touch, and he has a Bitter Revelation, currently not castable without a black source. So his draws need to line up here with what he's got. So either stuff he can cast or black sources to cast the stuff he has. And here comes a
John
mountain.
is John is being very defensive here then with the Savage Punch on the Swift Spear, making sure that he isn't going to get attacked by a 2/3 again.
Yeah, and I mean this 2/2 can just sit there and block the goblins. Like, this is right now this is okay for John, and now Morph comes down.
Yep.
Which one was that?
That's the Pine Walker,
Okay.
5/5.
Does he have an answer for the just drawn High Sentinels here?
Uh well, if so he's got a crippling chill that can slow it down, but his only way of dealing with it right now is hoping that Chris blocks.
Yeah, I mean
Um
it's a pretty free attack here with the morph since he can flip it
yeah,
up and still
he's
have
also
it to block the ground creatures.
Yeah, he's also got a dragon scale. He's also got the dragon scale boon, so he
Okay.
could attack with Ice Feather Raven and then potentially untap and block. But that still leaves him not big enough, assuming High Sentinels can put a +1/+1 counter on anyone.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he will probably try and attack here and try and get a High Sentinels block. Or maybe just attack with the morph.
Yeah, I think attacking with the Aven as well may have just been too much of a telegraph. Like at that point, you were saying, "P.S. I have pump."
Yeah. So now we're on the John R. Game One plan here of having 2 black cards in hand that cannot be cast at this current state. So I know Chris has
Yeah.
6 swamps and he has some smattering of non basics that also make black, but debilitating injury and the bitter revelation are just gonna have to sit here for a minute. And the Mardu Hateblade again basically has no text right now. All right. So crippling chill comes down, and John can probably start attacking more aggressively. So he's gonna attack with the goblins. He does have the counter that he can put to trade with the bird, and he may just do that to get damage in here. Yeah, he just says,
Yep.
let me deal an extra point of damage here, and off to the races."
So John is still drawing relevant cards. He's got a Jeskai Wind Scout and a Mystic of the Hidden Way that he could potentially deploy this turn.
Yeah,
Um, it's a
this.
question about is that going to be fast enough to deal with High Sentinels before it gets completely ridiculous. Well,
Yeah, I'm definitely a
7 is
fan
a
of
fair bit of damage.
fan of the Mystic of the Hidden Way. That was probably one of my favorite commons to draft. They honestly don't print 3 power unblockable at common anymore. Like it's a lot of damage. And Chris has drawn Crackling Doom, which is another black card. So we see the mana bases come in to bite both of our players here. The mana base problems are equal opportunity here.
as I'm having a lot of fun with this set when mana is good. Like I feel like the decisions that I'm having to make are really neat, and figuring out like what my opponent's morph is, what should I be playing around. Might they have are they going to have a sweeper that I might overextend into, or is it going to be a problem if I don't overextend? There's a lot of neat stuff going on, but then every so often just it's like, well, that wasn't a game.
Yeah, I mean, you get that in a lot of formats, but in this format where you are heavily encouraged to play three color cards, a lot of the powered uncommon lies in the cycles of three color cards that we get. Um,
Hmm.
so, you know, the charms, the 5-drop creatures, the common morphs as well. Like, those are all, you know, some of the better cards of common and uncommon, and we're being pushed to play them, and sometimes the mana works out, and sometimes it's miserable.
Yeah. So John is choosing to not send out his Mystic of the Hidden Way in order to keep Dragon Scale Boon back.
And we got another bitter revelation on top here. So the revelation is extremely bitter here for Chris, being that he has 4 uncastables in hand. But he does have the High Sentinels untapped here, so it is finally available to block.
Yeah, I think John was hoping that there was going to be an attack there, because Dragon Scale Boon to untap the Ice Feather Age even, plus the prowess on the Wind Scout would have meant that he could have traded both of those for the High Sentinels, and I mean that's a 3-for-1, but I think he probably would have been happy with it.
All right, so let's see how the attacks go here. If he does decide to attack with the Pine Walker, yeah. So interesting. Chris is pretty incentivized to just double block it, I think, and put a counter on the Goblin. And tell John, well, if you have a trick, sure, you got rid of my goblins. You know, you traded a trick for 2 goblin tokens. Fine. I don't think he can put high sentinels in the line of fire here,
No,
because if he does
although
and it
high,
doesn't work
although
out, I mean, John is obviously saying I have something. Um, okay,
yeah,
well,
I was actually wondering about blocking with High Sentinels and the Goblins,
yeah, he
assuming that
says,
he's got a trick of some kind. At least this way, you almost certainly lose the High Sentinels, but this way you might at least lose the High Sentinels in exchange for the Pine Walker.
yeah, I want to get the trick out of my opponent's hand, but not at the expense of. Okay, so this will be. Oh,
Yeah,
actually, it will be a. No, it will not. No, if he puts a counter on itself, it doesn't pump itself. Because
it's the same
it
as
gets +1 for each other creature you get with a counter.
yeah. So he can make it a 6/7 either with the counter on itself or on the Hate Blade. So you do the Hate
Yeah,
Blades that the counter sticks around. But
but
yeah, now it's not
now
enough.
these flyers are just going to end the game very quickly. And also, this Pine Walker is bigger than Chris's whole board here. And we got a morph coming down. So polluted Delta here. You know, it's probably a little too late for that. So he has debilitating injury and crackling doom as viable options. The bitter revelations are not going to work out here. He may have to debilitating injury one of the flyers this turn, chump block the Pine Walker, and then crackling doom it next turn to be able to try and stay in this.
Yeah, because I mean the black mana, like with black mana, he could just block Pine Walker with Hate Blade and Death Touch.
Yeah, I think
Like that
taking
becomes an
4 in the
option
air
now. But
is a little rough.
yeah, and he doesn't even know that it's going to be 7 that he can't block with the Mystic of the Hidden Way yet. I imagine he's about to find that out right now.
Yeah, Mystic of the Hidden Way is going to get through whatever last points of damage here. Yeah, so that's now 7, and yeah, that's why I kind of like debilitating injury on the flyer. Just and then next turn you can try and get the Pine Walker off the board, because you can chump block the Pine Walker, but you can't block the flyers, nor can you block the Mystic. And John just says, I'm gonna put you down to 3 here." And again, we see that the mana base, you know, the mana bases decide this game or play a big role in this
Well,
game.
I mean, Chris does have a shot at just killing John on the crackback, though, doesn't he? If he's got Crackling Doom for 2 damage and get rid of Pine Walker,
Yeah.
then he's representing damage to put him down to 4. Like an Arrow Storm would win him the game right here.
Well, he just has 6. Yeah, he has 6 damage in play.
Yeah.
Mardu Skull Hunter for the turn, so
Yeah, that
it's
I guess probably wasn't
not
what he
quite
was
gonna
hoping
work.
for.
He's gonna show him, look, I had this, I swear.
Yeah.
I had an answer. Yeah. So not sure what if Chris is. I don't know. Not sure why he's trying to bluff here, but with no priority, Chris can't do much. So yeah, we see the mana base once again rearing its ugly head, and making it so Chris was out of options there in the mid game. I mean, this is kind of what your green blue deck wants to do, right? You use a couple tempo spells, you use a trick, you play flyers. Like this was a pretty good strategy in the format.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as green blue and splash for removal, it's a time honored strategy.
Yeah.
And John's just hit resubmit. He's got he has the red sources and the red spells that neither of those came up during game 2.
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit of a surprise for Chris when those come out.
I mean, he might have been surprised by seeing a Swampin play also in that game.
Yeah.
Chris also opted for the no sideboarding required option there, and we get a nice game 3 here. So this is pretty much the hand Chris was looking for here, with stuff to do. What's John looking at?
Yeah. 2 land, Island Forest. He's got Ice Feather Aven, Jeskai Windscout, Glacial Stalker, a Savage Punch, and the Splash Arc Lightning. And he's glancing at that and trying to decide. I imagine he's keeping. Yeah, he's chosen to keep. I do find it interesting that when John had the choice last game, he put Chris on the play, and when Chris had the choice, Chris decided to go on the play. So apparently, they both agree that Chris should be on the play.
Yeah, I've been, and I often get pushback for this in week 1 and frequently week 2 of League in the dark. Unless my deck is extremely assertive, I kind of just put people on the draw, which I think with the increasing quality of recent sets may have become potentially incorrect. But I still always feel okay about it. Like the decks are so bad, the mana bases are so poor. Every little thing makes a difference. And like nobody's playing aggro usually in week 1 or week 2 of league. Even by the end of the league, it's rare you really see true aggro decks. So
Yeah, I mean they're going
I'm
to
not
be.
against it, though. Somebody in my clan did make a good point when we were talking about it in our clan chat that in this set, specifically turn 5 is a very big turn, especially for unmorphing, and giving your opponent first crack at that is a big disadvantage. So uh, I may be changing my ways here.
Yeah, I mean, early on it felt better to me. I was still generally choosing to play, but I don't know for sure if that was good or not. But if I was a little short on land and really wanted to get that extra draw in, then it felt good. But if my opponent then started tempoing me, then well, that's one of the ways that you can lose.
Yeah, it feels bad to know that you chose to be on the draw in a game that you would have won on the play.
Yeah.
that is like the ultimate reason to not do it, because when you choose to be on the play, that's just like the normal thing. Like you're rarely ever going to look back and be like, oh, I should have definitely drawn that game. But there'll be games where you choose to draw that you're going to be like, I would have literally won that game. So nice high sentinels showing up in every game here for Chris. In hand, he has 2 Mardu Warshriekers, which one can chain into the other. He has a plains and he has a swarm of bloodflies, which is the 5 mana 2/2 flyer that can grow when things die.
So John is playing the Force Away here on Disowned Ancestor to reset it. And then what he's got is the follow-up Savage Punch.
Oh.
Because of Jeskai Windscout's prowess, that's going to be enough to let him take out the High Sentinels.
This
and
is like the classic green-blue strategy in this format. Bounce, punch, prowess, flying. Boom. You are at
Yeah, and
10.
that's a lot of damage all of a sudden. And if you were talking about Mardu War Shriekers, that's also meaning that they're shut down a little bit because Chris doesn't have an attack this turn.
Yeah, Chris probably just has to play his Swarm of Bloodflies and be pretty sad about it here. He can't take another 4.
He's
He has to. I mean, okay. It looks like he's going to play Ancestor and War Shrieker and, take another damage. Oh. I so as soon as the ancestor been on the stack, he picked up Bloodflies to play it. He may have thought that it was 4 mana.
I have done that several times in this format. Did you know that the Fireblade Charger costs 4 to activate to get a pump? The one drop white guy, because I really thought it was 3.
I don't
May
play
have
that.
lost a draft game because of that the other day.
I have not put that card in a deck since 2014,
Yeah,
and was
I
probably
tried
wrong back
the
then.
I tried the Valley Dasher deck out
Oh.
in draft, and it didn't quite get there. Dragon Skill boon from John here. He's just saying
Oh, it's an extra 3 damage.
I'm just playing my flyers and gonna punch you really hard. So even if there
Yes.
had been a swarm of blood flies, that probably would have gone badly. And he's now
Yeah.
looking. Sorry,
Oh.
he's now looking at Arc Lightning as well, which
Oh,
he
that
has
would.
in hand, and he has gotten a red source. So
Well,
this is probably going to be over momentarily.
yeah, that wraps it up. So I do think that there was probably a slight error in the blood flies, but I mean, with the dragon skill boon, the blood flies would have fallen anyway, and he would still be at a very low life total. But as we know, with the arc lightning, which can deal damage to a player, this game is it's wrapped up here. So John and his Sultai scheming is going to bring him the win here.
Yep. And indeed, here we go.
Yeah.
Arc
So
Lightning, 3 to the face.
all right. So we see John get on the winning page here with a victory, and we'll be back in a little bit with our second match of the day.